And that has been in my head for the last 30 years, ever since I played it as a clarinetist in the orchestra in 6th grade. And I forget what it's called. It's not Louie Louie, but I also used to play Louie Louie. So that's our temporary theme song. Welcome to a podcast by me, Keenan, who has no idea how to make a podcast, and I've never done it before. And it's an OCD podcast. This is an OCD podcast from the funniest comedian you know. I'm here in my bedroom in the boudoir with my green tea as I adjust the microphone to my liking, because I am OCD and I need everything perfect. Everything needs to be in the right place. It's not exactly that kind of OCD, but it's a little bit. I've got my green tea. Come on, microphone. There we go. It's fine. I got my green tea here, and I've got my coconut water. My coconut water is because it was recommended to me by Sarah, bear with me here. Bear with me in this intro. We're going to get there. We're getting there, folks. It doesn't matter. We're perfect. We're perfect the way we are. Nobody has to listen to this podcast. You know, it's about my process and the few people who can listen and help me with it, and I can grow and you can grow. And that's what it's about. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's about getting it out. Can I say it? Anyway, I'm here with my coconut water and mi agua de coco. And that was recommended to me by a Eastern medicine expert from Vermont who I met in the mountains, who I told him I'm having dry mouth issues. And he said to go drink aloe vera juice, which tastes like cum, by the way. And it's very bitter, but it's not bad, you know, which is kind of like cum. It's like not bad. It's not the best, but it's also like not bad. And when you love the person, you're like, it's good. So this is the best podcast you've ever listened to. It's a new podcast. It's this might be, you know, this is the 10 days since I recorded the first one about. And it's a podcast about somebody with OCD, and a psychosomatic representation of that is an obsession with my mouth being too dry. And that manifests itself, especially when I have to get on stage and worry that I'm going to have to do stand-up comedy where my very instrument is, my voice is a challenge. And so I've chosen it's ironic. It's an ironic challenge. If irony is the right word, I don't know. It's a Shakespearean problem. Sounds like a Shakespearean problem. You know, it's the stuff of Shakespeare. So we have some things to talk about today. I've been really anxious. I have anxiety. Maybe that could be the name of this podcast, anxiety. But I have a feeling somebody has taken that. I'm guessing. So I had a lot of anger today. I was screaming in my apartment. And you wouldn't know me as someone who's very angry. I don't think most of you'd be like, he seems pretty... if not, you know, chill. I can't imagine him getting angry. But when you reach a point where your mental health's not good, you get angry by yourself and you scream. Thank God I screamed. It's better than not screaming, keeping it inside. And I screamed. One of the things that sort of set me off today is that I didn't sleep well. I've changed my medicine, and the serotonin levels have gone down in the medicine I'm taking because I'm not that great at changing medicine, and I want to accelerate it faster. And so I was like, we don't need all that old medicine as you taper onto the new one. So I'll just take the new one, which is Prozac. And it may have affected my sleep. And I didn't exercise a lot yesterday, so I don't sleep well when I don't exercise. And so that'll affect your mood. And secondly, I did this work where I'd call into this radio, and I have to like do this like radio voice acting. And that's how I do with things now with Spanish. I'm not Spanish in my life recently. Sometimes I just want to say entonces, y eso. And I just transition into that. So I did this radio work, and I had to get an IKEA delivery of a table to my apartment. And they only give you a certain window. And of course, the window is exactly the same as when I was doing this radio work, where I have to really be focused and read these scripts. And talk to this radio station as a character. And I was like, I didn't know what to do. And so I scheduled both at once because I've been waiting on this IKEA kitchen dining room table. And so, of course, as I was in the call, the dining room table came. And I feel like it affected how I did in the performance, with the radio station. And then the IKEA guy almost left. I went down there shirtless. They weren't that happy with me after I told them to wait. And I did get the table, and I did complete my job with the radio, but I worried that the radio is going to complain about me and I might lose this. And then I was spiraled out into being like, you're not professional. You're going to lose jobs because you're not professional. And you can't even hold a basic, pretty easy job. And then it created a lot of anxiety in my head, in addition to being tired. And it was just too much. So what I did was I went outside and let me take some air. Let me go for a walk. That's what I do for my mental health, mi salud mental. And I went outside and it was a beautiful day out today. It's Monday, September 16th. And I smiled at my neighbors. Even I said hi to my neighbors. I live in Harlem now, which has been a big challenge for me. Living in Harlem after moving into Harlem in the summer, after living in Mexico for 2.5 years, pretty comfortably like a gringo king with a nice cross breeze because you're in the elevations of Mexico City. Moving into an apartment in Harlem doesn't get a lot of cross breeze in the heat of summer with neighbors I don't know, far away from everybody all of a sudden, thinking I'm going to make it in stand-up comedy in New York caused a lot of anxiety, everybody. A lot more than I thought. I thought I could take all this on. I haven't been able to. And so I walked outside. I said hi to the neighbor. Even this is the old man neighbor who blasts music across the street every day at 7 a.m. And it's the same funk music. And I had to lie to him recently to ask him to turn the music down. Because I know old people who don't blast music, they're not just like, would you please turn it down? They blast music because they're antisocial sociopaths. They don't care. And he's an old head in the neighborhood. So they've been doing this long before I got here. And so I said to him, smiled at him. I want to get on his good side. So I smiled at him. You can't get on people's bad sides when you're new in the neighborhood. I digress. But I'm just saying, I did say to him, the one time I asked him to turn the music down at 7 a.m, I had to lie and pretend I was straight because I knew if I was like, I have to do work, he'd be like, who is this white man here trying to do work in the go to an office or what are you doing? I don't care. Just do work. What does the music matter? So I said to him, I was like, my lady's trying to sleep. Do you mind? And he goes, all right, I'm gonna forgive you on that one. As if I did something wrong. But anyway, said hi to him, walked to the neighborhood, got some of this beautiful 70-degree sunshine, found a basketball court, jumped at the hoop a little bit just to practice some jumping, get some movement. I came back. I was like, let me focus on the podcast. And here we go. And that got me in a little bit of a better mood. So it's hope and optimism. It affects me so much. I just changing medicines to Prozac over from Celexa. Prozac is supposedly more focused on OCD. My psychiatrist recommended, let's try that. A new psychiatrist I have. And it can't be starting to work already because I've only been on it for a couple days. And yet I feel a little better the last few days because I have the hope and optimism that it's going to help me. And I've noticed that when I have a change in something new, I'm like, I'm going to start coconut water. I'm going to try a new toothpaste. I'm going to for 2 days, my symptoms kind of go away because my brain thinks it's going to work. And then the brain affects my mood and I don't have as many symptoms. My brain affects my mood and makes me think that I am not going to have this problem forever. And, of dryness and whatnot and obsession over dryness. And then I really do better. And so it's making me think that this really is a mental problem. I've struggled this month by trying to go back to maybe it's a medical problem. And it's the brain is so powerful. If I can get my brain thinking good and having hope, I think that it'll start to put me in a better situation. So keeping that optimism going is interesting. Hope and optimism is so much more powerful, probably even more than the drugs. And so we're working on that. I want to talk to you guys about my life a little bit. In the next segment, I'm going to call Hard, Weird, Scary, Stupid. Hard, Weird, Scary, Stupid. Brought to you by nothing because we have no sponsors so far. But you know what? It's brought to you by Judy Carter, who wrote the Comedy Bible from stand-up to sitcom, the comedy writer's ultimate how-to guide. She said, and I haven't read the book, but I use it when I teach comedy. I use this advice, hard, weird, scary, stupid. If you're looking to write and you can't think of anything to write, you're not sure what to do, to generate ideas, just think from what yesterday. What was from what yesterday? That's the new. Think about yesterday and think what was hard, what was weird, what was scary, what was stupid about yesterday. And so that's what I'm going to tell you about. That's what I'm going to tell you about after we take a quick commercial break from our sponsors. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by the Jockstrap. The Jockstrap. Did you know if you put on a jockstrap, you will get way more attention from men because the strap will be seen above your waistline on your back? I was riding a bike the other day and to show off the back strap, and some guys drove by in a car and said, "Hey, boo." And that made me feel better. And so if you're down, put on a jock strap. If you're down, put on a jock strap. And that's been the sponsor today, a jock strap. So let me start by saying that this section will not be all negative, but there's some negativity in here, and I'm not used to making my complaints about my life funny, and it's a main kind of problem for me. The really bad stuff in my life doesn't really often get into my comedy. The really bad stuff, the dark stuff, the stuff that makes me feel so much shame, where, the stuff where a landlord wants to banish me from the apartment, another landlord thinks I'm annoying, freaking all this stuff where I have housing trouble, or, I don't go to court to sue a former roommate, even though he owes me a security deposit, and he completely ignores me about it forever, and I don't do anything about it. And that makes me very shameful, all that stuff. And I don't talk about that stuff very much. And I sort of bury it behind, but it has an effect on you. And a lot of this stuff has happened in recent, part of my life. And so I'm going to start with the weirdest thing that happened to me. Okay, one weird thing that happened to me is I made the mistake of asking some out-of-pocket heckler DJ during the African American Day Parade what the day was. And, part of this was my bad. There's a parade coming through Harlem on Sunday. And, if I'm living in Harlem, I should know, and maybe shouldn't be asking, what is this day to all these black people when, this is their day? Maybe. I don't know. I said, what is this day? I could have done a little bit more research, and, it's me not being from Harlem all of a sudden asking, what's going on here? Maybe not the best. But I asked questions of everybody. So I asked this guy what was going on, and he said, "Oh, you're just asking, out here." He said, "Well, you're going to donate to the DJ?" And I was like, "No, why would I donate to the DJ? The DJ, first of all, there's no music playing." And he said, "Oh, my voice is the art, And I was like, "Okay." And he's like, "Well, are you going to buy something?" And I was like, "What? Why am I just wanted to know what day this was." My naive ass is like, I want to be, aware. And I just, sure, I could Google it, but why not be a person who asks things of each other and our fellow beings. And he was like, you're gonna come through here as a guest, as a visitor to this neighborhood. I wasn't laughing at the time. I was a little annoyed because I wasn't in the best mood, but it is kind of funny. He's like, you're gonna come in as a visitor. I was like, I live here. He's like, you're a guest at best. And I was like, oh. I go, why you got to do me like that? And he said, well, you're coming in here, asking questions, not even buying anything, supporting. And then I was just quiet. I just stood there because I was just like, what else is he going to say? And I just, it was me being like, all right, I'm not going to say anything back to him because some people treat you like that, when you're new in a neighborhood. This guy was, again, he was not my audience. He wasn't the best person to talk to, probably, because he was just heckling everyone coming by. I came by later in the day, and after, because I was leaving, and he said on the mic, he was like, we don't like any clowns marching through the parade today. I'm a proud black man. So it was a little hostile, that guy, whatever. But it felt a little weird because, like, you don't want to feel unwelcome in your home, and I haven't been feeling very good here anyway. So to have that was kind of strange, but it's like that sort of represents a bit of a challenge. I think most people, when you move into a neighborhood like Harlem, which has got its own culture, its own strong culture for a long time, many years, long. So you come in, you don't know what it is. And some people, especially not the most enlightened folks, not the folks who are just like maybe a little angry, they're going to treat you a certain way. And again, maybe my bad by asking black people what the Black Parade is. Probably not the best. I hope this is funny. I don't know. But so that's fine. But the best thing that happened to me is also neighborhood related. And then I got out the subway and I saw a security guard. And he go, where you been, man? Where you been? And he's like, I've been looking for you. I'm not playing ball anymore because I looked down out my window. You're not there, so I don't go play ball. I really like playing with you. And so I had been playing on another court nearby where there's more action, but I had more games. But I hadn't gone to this court across the street from me very much at all. And he's been looking for me. And that made me feel really good that this dude really wanted to, like, he wanted to specifically, he goes, it's really fun to play with you. That made me feel good. So that was a positive. I gave him my number, so maybe I'll play with him in the future. The scariest thing is turning 40. I'm turning 40 in 6 months, and that's prompted a lot of the anxiety that I've been having recently because I wanted to, get a lot. I wanted to get a lot out and done even in 2023. I was like, by the end of this year, I'm going to have a short special out in Spanish. When I was living in Mexico, I'd done so much work there to get, I think, such an interesting, fun perspective of a gringo fish out of water living in Mexico in Spanish and in English. And I just kind of lost my momentum and felt, like I needed to come back to the U.S. and didn't feel like I had my mojo anymore. So I came back and I didn't get the special done, And then I came back here and it's been a struggle. And so all of a sudden I'm facing 40 and I feel a lot of pressure as I'm coming up on 10 years of doing stand-up. I feel a lot of pressure to get a lot done, and I have a lot of content that a lot of people haven't seen. There's just so much I want to release. And then when I've had all this anxiety and OCD in recent months and then haven't felt confident on stage, it was like, oh, I lost my opportunity to get all this stuff out when I was in a good mindset. And now I'm sort of just like, I put pressure on myself to get a lot done while I'm in my 30s. And, I've gotten a little better about that in the last little while because I'm starting to realize that it's like the more pressure I put on myself, you can't put the pussy on a pedestal. The more pressure you put on yourself, the more it gets harder to do. And the more you're getting angry and you're getting frustrated. So it's like, okay, again, I can't speed it up any more than I can. I can be smart about decisions, but the more I want to rush, it doesn't necessarily help me either. And so um, I can turn 40. I can talk about turning 40 after I turn 40. I don't need to put all this pressure on myself, but it's been very scary turning that age because 30, when I turned 30, it was all about um, how do I, like, I wanted to be on the right path finally and have a career choice. And I did. I found comedy when I was 30. I started to feel really, really good after a lot of flailing around before that. I started to find something I really like. 40 feels more about accomplishment and coming up and feeling like maybe you right at this current moment I don't feel that accomplished this year, and that's been a challenge. Ha. So what's stupid? Stupid is my former roommate guy who still hasn't given me a security deposit back. Like, this guy is so weird. And for months after I moved out, he's first of all, he was supposed to give it to me within 5 days. He confirmed that he was going to do that way back when, back at the end of January. Didn't do that. And he kept making promises he couldn't keep month after month after month. He still owes me money. And I was in the neighborhood, and I was like, finally, let me just knock on his door. It's been 5, 6, 7, 8 months. I haven't talked to him in 3 months. He hasn't responded to a letter from my lawyer. He has not responded to a letter from the Attorney General's Office of New York, which is supposed to can mediate problems when it comes to security deposit issues. You can send them in a letter and they can mediate for you. But he never responded, so they couldn't mediate. So I was like, let me knock on the door. I know where he lives. And let me, let's see what happens with that. And he wasn't there, so I walked away. But as I was walking away back to the subway, I ran into him, and I was like, hello? Like, I ran into him, and I was like, I took off my headphones, and I was like, hey. He's like, what do you want? What do you want? And I'm like, what? Like, what do you mean? Like, he's like, is this about the 200? I was like, 283. And he was like, okay, I'm just really stressed out right now. I can get paid to you tomorrow. So I don't have to, I'll just do it so I don't have to hear about it anymore. And he always catches me like that. Like, why is this guy so angry? I should have said like, no, let me see you do it right now. But I let him go and he walked away. I was like, okay, so tomorrow, right? That's final. He goes, yeah. Yeah. And of course, lo and behold, the next day, like always, nothing. Send him a reminder message, nothing. But I mean, just to treat me like I'm the fucking bad guy in that situation was so stupid of him. And just like, he's just a stupid idiot. So weird. And I don't know, maybe I'll go to small claims court about it. Maybe I won't. But he's certainly a freaking weird guy. He's always about him. And when it comes to me, why am I going back there to try to even talk to him? Can someone tell me that? I don't know. I don't even know. I mean, whatever. So the funniest thing / let's say stupid thing number 2 is that I got referred to a therapist by my dad from his friend's son is a psychiatrist, and because my dad's been trying to help me find somebody, and the psychiatrist called me, and I picked up the phone and I was like, oh, is this? And he's like, oh, it's doctor. Da, da, da. I was like, oh, I only knew you as because that's why my dad, and he didn't respond to that. As if, like, he's just very elitist on the phone. And I told him, the issue I've been having and that it's probably OCD. And he said, okay, when do you want to set up an appointment? And I'm like, well, what are we going to do? Like, is there anything I need to know? Is there a cost? And can I consult with you first before? He's like, well, I have 5 minutes now to consult. And then, that's what that is. And then I'll set up the appointment. I'm like, and the cost for 1 hour, he said, is $1,000. And I was like, what? Like, what is that? Like, I'm sorry. I was like, what does that entail? Like, why is it 1,000? I'm sorry. I was like, I'm sorry. What? Like, I've just never heard a price like that. Whoops. Like, he was like, oh, I just thought everything was handled with your dad. And I didn't think that was an issue. And from what I told him the price, so I didn't think that was going to be a thing. And I was just like, yeah, well, my dad doesn't catch everything. He's not the one paying for it, and he doesn't catch every detail. He's older, and he's like, oh, okay. And I just think it's funny and weird that somebody doesn't tell you any of their credentials or anything that they're going to do for you, and then tell you it's $1,000 and think that that's okay. Like, sell it to me. Like, yes, I need help, but like, not $1,000 for an hour. Who are you? And he told me that. I was like, what does that get you? He's like, well, he was trained at a certain college, and it connects me to people, Columbia, and he connects me to other people in his network that also went to that college, and he has that network, and that he's also, as if I didn't go to a great college or I can't find a therapist who went to a good college. And then he also said that he's concierge, so he's available to me at any moment. And that was about it. And he added one other little thing, that he's had some training in his PhD in OCD. Not all, but did some. And that he spends more time than just the hour on me. That's why it's $1,000. And I was just like, okay, very much. That's fine. But the point is that the reason I want to bring this up is this happens a lot lately where people will give you a price on something and they don't tell you they don't tell you who they are. They don't sell it to you. Sell it to me. Like, sell it to me. There's like this like acting class I was looking into, and it was like whatever. I looked at it was like $6,000, and the one on the phone was like, if you want to sign up for the fall semester, just let us know. It's open. We'll waive the application fee for you. And I had very little information on her. I'm not sure I had the most information in general. They didn't give me a lot of information. And it's like, sell it to me. I don't know anything about you, and it's $1,000, and you expect me to just be like, okay. Like, who would want a patient like that? You wouldn't want a patient like that. It's just weird. So I just find that kind of thing off-putting. Like, don't make me feel bad. Don't put me on the back foot for asking and being taken aback that it's $1,000. It's your responsibility to convince me that the $1,000 is worth it. Why would you want to sell your services to someone who just thinks it's automatically worth it because you say so? So this brings us to the final segment of the show. First, let's just have one more word from our sponsors. And this episode of Keenan's podcast is brought to you by cloth fast-drying towels. I've traveled a lot, and these things should be used more. They're real savers. You can put a fast-drying towel in your bag, take it to the beach, then put it back in your backpack. How do you have room these days to travel with a full-on towel? Not enough people are traveling with microfiber towels. I don't know the material. I don't know where they're made, but they're really great. Get yourself a fast-drying microfiber towel. Great for travel. That's it for the sponsor. Okay, so we're going to close out. The second to last section of the show is going to be a new joke idea. Oh, let me just step back. So new joke idea is just going to be maybe a new thing, a new premise, a new idea that I have that hasn't become a joke yet, but it's an idea. And so I run through the park, and you always see like the squirrels, and because it's New York, a rat in Central Park scurry away when we run through. All they know is that these huge beings occasionally come through and everything run through like a storm. And we're the storm people. And they must think like, why are these people always in a rush? Why are they in a rush? Like, here come the crazy storm people flailing. Let's scurry away. Is that anything? Another thing that's kind of interesting is New York Super Fudge Chunk Ice Cream. I just find that name weird. Like, do people come from out of town and they're here and they're like, oh, I can't wait to try the classic New York Super Fudge Chunk Ice Cream. I'm in New York, baby. I got to get a pretzel on the corner, a hot dog, and chocolate ice cream with walnuts, pecans, and fudge chunks, because it's New York. I did some research, and apparently Ben & Jerry, when they came to New York, in the New York market in 1985, they wanted to make an ice cream that was as big as New York. And so they had more chunks in this ice cream than anyone they had before. And so they called it New York Super Fudge Chunk Ice Cream. And talk about some carpetbaggers. Strange. It's strange. It was like me going to... You can't just like name something of a place and not be there, not be from that place. And so they did that. But I don't find the ice cream very good. It's not that special. and there's not even that many chunks anymore. Maybe it was chunky for 1985, and there's nothing New York about it. So maybe just rename it instead of New York Super Fudge Chunk Ice Cream. I think it'd be fun if it was just like it's like Rhode Island Nut Fudge. Get the New York out of it. It's offensive. Also, what we're talking about is, while we're on the same subject of cultural appropriation, there's a state in the United States, one of the 50 states, called New Mexico, of course. But don't you think, obviously, it should not be called New Mexico? I mean, first of all, literally, the Americans took what was formerly Mexico from Mexico. And not only did they do that in a war, but they had to rename one of the states after the place they took it from. They had to rename it. Oh yeah, not only did we conquer you, but we're going to take your name and say this is the new version of you. What a bold, obnoxious piece of fucking bullshit that is. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Can you imagine England going into Ireland? This is New England. This is no longer Ireland. We'll conquer you, but we're also something like that. You know what I mean? Oh, you're going to... Yeah, that. Just that. Ridiculous. Anyway, my thing is that, of course, we're not going to give New Mexico back now. But New Mexico should really be called Old Mexico. Just think about it. Just think about it. I'm not even going to tell you why. Tell me next episode why I'm right. It should be called that area used to be Mexico. It's Old Mexico. That state should be called Old Mexico. That's actually could be a bit. So I'm going to have some green tea and some coconut water. And as I close out this episode, thank you to our sponsors, by the way. I have no idea how to make a podcast. I have no sound engineers. I have no theme music. And I have no art. But if someone wants to get in touch with me to make it, that'd be great. To close out this episode, I just have to find my outline. There we go. Yeah, I mean, the whole point of this podcast is maybe I can't get all of my satisfaction creatively from shows, from performing stand-up right now. You know, if I'm not booked, if I'm experiencing issues maybe with a lot of OCD and anxiety. So, and I'm living a little further away in New York, which has been a troubling thing. So how do I make, in terms of getting to shows and sort of like just feeling alienated from the stand-up community a little bit more than I used to? So how do I make lemons from lemonade? I like to say it like that because I like lemons better than lemonade. So how do I make lemons from lemonade? I mean, lemons are amazing. They're in everything. You use them in everything. Italian food, freaking fresh water, tequila cut clean on a counter. Lemonade is like sugar lemon water. Come on. But how do you make lemons from the lemonade? Let's go internal. And like as we're going to do this on this podcast, let's look at the internal work and let's go a little more internal. Even though this podcast is also external, it's me alone. And so this is part of the internal work I'm doing. As I open up to the world and open up about my challenges with OCD and the psychosomatic big challenges I have with stand-up, get more real and more honest about it. Let's see what happens as I open it up and I stop it from keeping inside, and I get maybe I'm not as scared about it, and maybe I release some of the grip that it has on me. People say make jokes about the thing that is hardest for you, and that's what part of this podcast is, as my voice turns more a little bit on the earnest side, which I just want to let you guys know that I could, if I want, turn extremely into a soothing midnight NPR podcast at any moment, because I have that kind of a voice and range. And so if you want to start meditating and falling asleep, and remember to just breathe breathe quietly. This podcast is slowly ending. Quiet to the going to nothing. And good night. I'm just kidding. And so I feel I'm changing. It's been a hard year of change, and I've resisted it a lot. And I've resisted a lot of the change. And this is me embracing the change, this podcast. Embracing the things that have been difficult for me and putting them out there. And will this help me turn into the next stage of myself creatively and personally? We'll see. We'll see. Where does this take me to express myself in a way I never have before? Where does this take me, and where does this take you? And then how do you interact with me so that it takes me? Thank you guys for joining me on the podcast. I've loved it. It's I'll do another one very soon. Right now, it's still called Can I Say It? And so far, after a limited amount of episodes, can I say it? Yes, I can.